Traders may find it difficult to cut through noise and think in terms of probabilities, valuation, and risk adjusted returns instead of headlines during times like these. In a market driven by momentum, passive flows, and thematic chasing, Sven Carlin's framework offers a useful counterweight. Today, we're bringing that lens to traders, where value matters, where it doesn't, and how to survive when price disconnects from fundamentals. Sven, good to have you here. Traders live by price, investors live by value. In this tape, what matters more right now?
Well, for the last 15 years, it was more about momentum and the market just going up. But over the long term, as they say, the market is a weighing machine. So I would say fundamentals matter always more.
How do you know when price is diverging enough from value to become an opportunity rather than a trap?
It's a very difficult situation because now the market is driven by flows of liquidity. If you take buybacks, if you take 401ks, if you take foreign inflows that are still buying passively and buying according to market capitalization, it's most likely the S&P 500 will go up another 10% over this year, no matter what happens in Iran. So for a proper crash or buying the dip or things like that, one should wait for a recession, unemployment going higher, foreigners getting scared, and baby boomers that are still holding their retirement nest in the stock market because it always goes up, panicking and selling. So most likely the market will go up and will keep rewarding traders until these strong forces revert.
Sven, if flows keep rewarding expensive growth, how should traders think about value names that stay cheap longer than expected?
Value names, again, if you look at what's considered value now, we have fintech, we have China, and we have software stocks. But those are considered value just because they are relatively cheaper and perhaps negatively looked upon at the moment. But whether it is true margin of safety value, as Warren Buffett would consider, that's a completely other discussion. And Berkshire still has 372 billion reasons why that might tell us it's not really value, even if it looks like it.
You mentioned 372 billion reasons, those 372 billion reasons being cash. A thought exercise here. If you had that kind of fresh capital today, what's the most interesting opportunity set? Is it US mega cap tech? Is it small caps? Is it emerging markets from the US domestic perspective?
When you look at that kind of cash, for that money, it's very little opportunity. And that is the reason why Greg Abel might start doing some buybacks with Berkshire. But with that kind of money, you have to simply accept lower returns in the long term. They have it in treasuries, 4%, or what's there. Buying back Berkshire share, if you compare it to the earnings and earnings growth, one could expect long-term 7% returns. And for that kind of money, it is very difficult to achieve the historical returns. For more nimble retail investors that don't have this billion problem, we might look into small caps, overlooked situations. And I think you need to look below the $20 billion market valuation, truly understand the business that will do good no matter what, and then consider investing.
You often talk about downside risk first. What's the most common mistake traders make when they think about managing the risk?
Not considering it. Because after 17 years of the market going up, I speak to a lot of people and they just tell me, oh, Sven, you are so boring with even mentioning risk. Buy the dip, nothing can go wrong. And that idea is reinforced by the last 17 years. Whoever bought the dip the last 17 years was 100% right. So it's simply after 17 years, people stop thinking about the long-term risks, the long-term market cycle, and great traders, as for example, Universal's Mark Spitznagel forecasts that the S&P 500 will hit 8,000 points and then crash 80%. Those tail risks are not considered. And if you consider those risks, you have to be very well hedged on the option side. And that is costly.
All right. So you wake up and you try to ignore the headlines. What's one rule that you impose upon your portfolio even today?
Just to be patient. Be patient. For example, if you really want to wait for the great opportunities, now perhaps China can be considered, but it's still for me relatively cheap. But I did buy oil stocks in October, starting a position, assuming relative cheapness, oil at 60. The production cost for most of the market is marginal, is at 60. So long term, I could not lose money on that trade. Then whatever happened in the last few weeks happened, and I got my returns, what I expected over 5 years in 3 months. Okay, that happens. But last year in April, commodity stocks were relatively cheap, and then I opened a position there. So I have to be patient and wait for those true opportunities, and those emerge here and there.
Last one, Sven. What's one uncomfortable truth traders need to accept for the next 6 months?
Over the next 6 months, value investors have to accept that the market might still be in Goldilocks for the next 2 years, and traders must accept that there are tail risks that are totally not considered.
What setup would benefit most if you're right?
Being long and then being hedged.
Sven Carlin, always sharp, always disciplined. Thanks for joining us. This has been Trading Trends. Like and subscribe for more interviews. You're watching Tasty Live.